Well, we're here on a Saturday morning, and I make that distinction because we have a guest in town. This is Collin Allred.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, wonderful. It's great to have you in studio because I know you are everywhere right
That's
now.
right. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you're doing here in Lubbock.
Yeah, well, we're doing a roundtable with some farmers and ranchers to talk about agricultural production and how important it is for the Panhandle and for our state. It's about 10% of our state's economy. It's incredibly important.
Yeah.
And then also doing an event on campus with the students to talk about, hey, it's time to vote, let's get ready to go.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, you have been truly all over the state for the past several months at this point. Talk with me a little bit about the kinds of things that you're running into from people, the concerns that are being brought to you that really hit your heart.
Yeah. Well, I think that we're still going through an affordability crisis, and that there are so many Texans who can't afford the basics. And listen, this is something for me as somebody who's raised by a single mom, who's a public school teacher. It's personal because I know what it's like to kind of go through the grocery store line and say a little prayer that you're going to be able to afford everything that week.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that we have somebody who can focus on lowering our costs. I'm hearing from a lot of folks who are concerned that freedom is under attack here, and that when a woman's right to choose is called into question, that then impacts every other aspect of Texas life. And so we have a lot of work to do, but I think we also, most Texans I talk to want to have a senator who's focused on them instead of one who maybe is more focused on himself. And that's what I think we have in Senator Cruz.
Is there, the last time we spoke in March, when you're running against this onslaught of people who want this seat, so obviously successful there, but we spoke just before that about an op-ed that you had run in the paper here. We are a sanctuary city for the unborn. That was something that really spoke to you. Tell me where you stand with that now.
Yeah. Well, listen, I support a woman's right to make her own healthcare decisions, and access to abortion is incredibly important in many cases. And what we're seeing is that there's 26,000 Texas women who've been forced to give birth to their rapist child. I don't think that's who we are as Texans. Or stories like Kate Cox, who is a friend of mine in Dallas. She's a mother of two, had a much wanted third pregnancy. She got the news that we all hope we don't get, that the pregnancy wasn't viable and that she would likely lose her ability to have further children. And instead of being able to get the care she needed close to home, she had to leave our state. And I think that's not who we are as Texans. As a fourth generation Texan, somebody who knows who we are, I think that we believe in freedom, and that these are not decisions that government should be making for women and their families, but they should be able to make between their doctors, their faith, their family, and what's best in their situation.
Is there something that you can say to people here in Lubbock who hear these big hot button issues, such as a woman's right to choose, or we're talking a lot about border right now too. We aren't on the border, but we're told all the time that we are a border town. We feel like we're in our own country out here in West Texas. What can you say to the voters here that maybe don't know where they stand on all of these things, but they want someone who will listen to them?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think most folks I know are looking for somebody who they can share values with. And do you understand who we are, and do you want to help me and my family get ahead?
Yeah.
And as somebody who struggled growing up but had a lot of help from my community in Dallas, and got to play football at Baylor and made it to the NFL, I believe that I was able to do that because of this great state that I grew up in, and that there are so many folks who helped me along the way, many of whom politically we might have disagreed at different times, but we always found a way to work together. And I've been the most bipartisan Texan in Congress, and I do that because I think that's how you get things done to help actual working folks. And so I want to go to work for all 30 million of us. I think in Senator Cruz, we have a senator who's really much more focused on these, pitting us against each other and trying to divide us along some of these hot button issues. I want to solve them in a way that every Texan can feel like we have some part of this, and that we have somebody who understands who we are.
Yeah. Now you're running for a seat that it's a much smaller pool, right?
Yeah.
So many fewer senators than there are representatives. And I get this question a lot, and it's something that I wanted to ask you personally. When you head to the Senate and you are looked at someone and you've touted your bipartisanship, that you will reach across aisles and work with people, does it feel like in the Senate there is more pressure to vote along party lines? And what do you do with that when you get there?
Well, I actually think there'll be a little more freedom in terms of what I can do, and I'll have more of a platform to form those kind of groups of 6, groups of 8 senators who can get together and try and roll up their sleeves and come up with a solution to a very difficult issue. What I've seen over my time in Congress is that's often how these things get done. It starts off as a small group of folks who say, listen, let's figure this out, and then it builds out from there, and you start growing support, and eventually becomes, a law like the CHIPS and Science Act, for example. It's helping out here in Lubbock, but that I supported, that Senator Cornyn supported, but Senator Cruz voted against, or the infrastructure bill that's bringing $35 billion to our state, but $40 million specifically is coming to this area. That's something that I wanted to make sure that we're rebuilding our bridges here, which is something that we're doing in this area, investing in broadband, which is what we're expanding here in this area. That's based on that legislation. And so this is how you get it done to help people. These are all bipartisan efforts, but you have the people who want to do that.
Yeah, and I know that the CHIPS Act in particular is something that, it's huge. It changes the game. There is a lot of industry coming to Texas. Yeah. There's a lot of "Don't California my Texas" happening right now. You are a Texan for multiple generations. Where do you stand in this growth? Because obviously it's fantastic for Texas, but sometimes it changes the culture too.
Well, it's opportunities and challenges.
Yeah.
Right? There's an opportunity because we continue to see our economy diversify. From agriculture is going to remain really important. Oil and gas is going to remain very important. We're moving into tech and high-tech manufacturing, and that's good.
Yeah.
But if you're in North Texas, where I'm from, you feel it when the traffic is there, because we have about 300 people a day moving into DFW.
Wow.
And every day you're literally probably going to have a little longer in traffic.
Yep.
And so we have to find solutions to that. And that's why I've been working on things like the high-speed rail train between Dallas and Houston, where if we can get that line, I think we'll get other lines connecting our state. Investing in public transportation, which is going to be increasingly something that more Texans take advantage of, even as we are a car culture.
Yeah.
Investing in repairing our roads and bridges, because we still have so many miles of Texas roads and bridges that can be in better condition, or to help us expand what we have to deal with this growth. These are all investments that we have to have somebody who wants to make, and I do, and I think we've seen that it's not always the case for everyone.
There's a case building for you with younger generations of voters, but we haven't seen a statewide Democrat in office in Texas in 30 years. Tell me why you think you're the guy.
Well, I guess I don't see it that way, because I often just see myself as a Texan first.
Yeah.
But I will say that I'm used to being someone who's kind of a trailblazer, and breaking through, and I think that's something that I think we're ready for. But what this is fundamentally about is about, do you think that after 12 years of Senator Cruz's service, the way that he has, I think, not done the job, how he's gone to Cancun when we needed him most, how he doesn't vote for the legislation that helps our state, he's often talking about himself more than the state itself. Do you think that we need 6 more years of that, or do you think that we can have some fresh ideas and new leadership, somebody who will be a very bipartisan voice, who understands who we are as Texans? I'm not going to get away from that, and I certainly will take what I think is best about Texas and put that in the United States Senate. I think it'll make the Senate a better place too. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming. I know you're headed off to another place very quickly, so I appreciate you taking the time to come to Talking Points today.
Well, thanks, Jen. Appreciate you.